What if I told you that snails can be more space efficient than chickens for backyard protein? Not because they grow faster and not because they are a magic food, but because they convert what you already have into nutrition. Kitchen scraps, shade, moisture, and a calcium-rich environment. Quietly, with no acreage, with almost no noise, and with a footprint so small it feels like a trick. 2,000 years ago, the Romans engineered a backyard protein system called a cochlearium, a snail garden designed as a microclimate, built from stone, herbs, and calcium. Once you understand it, you start looking at every neglected corner of your yard like a pantry you forgot you owned. Today, we rebuild that idea as a vertical stone microclimate that stays stable during heat waves. We will cover the structure, the security details that prevent collapse, the aromatic forage that flavors the meat from the inside out, the calcium cycle that makes the colony thrive, and the harvest and cooking methods that turn this into a real food system, the forgotten Roman superfood. There is a reason this topic sounds provocative. We have been trained to picture protein as something that requires land, noise, equipment, and a constant battle against mess. Chickens are excellent animals, but they also pull you into a lifestyle. They need space, they can create smell, they attract pests, and in many cities they trigger complaints or regulations. They also pull you into a supply chain. Feed bags, bedding, replacements, and a steady stream of inputs. Snails change the equation for small spaces. They let you compress animal protein production into areas that livestock cannot use well. The shaded side yard, the damp corner behind a shed, the strip of ground beside a wall where nothing productive seems to thrive. The Roman cochlearium turned those spaces into a protein bank. The common workhorse species is Helix aspersa, also known as Cornu aspersum, hardy, adaptable, and willing to convert humble plant matter into muscle and minerals while building a shell that can be recycled back into the system. In 2026, the question becomes urgent again. How do you produce real nutrition in the smallest space with the fewest external dependencies? The Roman answer was not bigger animals, it was better microclimates. They engineered shade, humidity, and calcium-like technology. Because to a snail, it is. Engineering the vertical stone microclimate. Think of the build as a living pantry wall. A stack of stone or recycled masonry that holds coolness the way a cellar does, releases it slowly, and creates sheltered pockets of humidity. Your design has three jobs: store temperature, buffer humidity, and create surfaces the snails can cling to and hide in. You can build with local stone, old bricks, recycled pavers, or broken chunks of concrete. It does not need to be pretty. It needs to be stable and full of small voids. Do not stack it like a perfect wall. Stack it like a ruin. Tiny caves, cracks, and overhangs become humidity pockets, and during a heat wave, those pockets are survival. A practical size for most backyards is a footprint about the size of a small side table and a height around 1 to 1.5 meters. Tall enough for vertical habitat, small enough to maintain without turning your yard into a construction site. Stone works because it is a thermal battery. During the day, it absorbs heat slowly, and it does not spike the way thin materials do. At night, it releases heat gradually and reduces temperature swings. When you add water, evaporation pulls heat away. A lightly misted stone surface becomes self-cooling, and the interior cracks stay humid long after the outside air dries. Placement matters more than size. Snails do not want full sun. They want shade with airflow. Place the tower where sunlight is indirect, like the shaded side of a wall, under a tree canopy, or beside a fence that blocks harsh afternoon heat. If your space is mostly sun, create shade with a simple canopy, but keep ventilation so the area does not become stagnant. Now we address the detail that saves the entire system. Ants. Ants are not a side problem. They can overwhelm eggs and juveniles fast. The solution is an ant moat. Place the base of the tower on a platform and set that platform inside a shallow tray of water. Ants will not cross it. In hot climates, check the moat like a fuel gauge and top it up when needed. The goal is a passive barrier without toxic chemicals. The second enemy is escape. Snails are slow, but on a humid night they will explore. You need an escape barrier at the top of your structure. Use a smooth upper band the snails cannot grip, a tight inward lip that overhangs, or a removable mesh lid that allows airflow and mist while preventing midnight expeditions. This is security by design, not security by poison. Once the hardware is done, you have a vertical climate engine protected from ants and escapes, ready to be seeded like a tiny orchard. The aromatic forage and calcium cycle. This is where the system becomes gourmet. You are not only feeding snails, you are flavoring meat. Snails absorb the story of what they eat. The Romans treated snail farming like finishing livestock, using aromatic plants to shape flavor from the inside out. Build a forage ring around the tower, not huge, just enough to supply fresh cuttings and a scented boundary. Rosemary, wild fennel, thyme, mint kept in a pot so it does not take over, and hardy greens like kale, mustard greens, and chard. Snails can convert scraps into protein, but you still need standards. Feed clean plant matter. Avoid anything salty. Avoid oily cooked leftovers. Avoid spicy foods. Be cautious with strong compounds like large amounts of citrus or onion family scraps. Good staples include leafy greens that are still safe but not pretty, cucumber ends, zucchini, squash, melon rinds, and pesticide-free weeds like dandelion leaves. Calcium is not a supplement. It is infrastructure. A snail builds shell every day. Shell quality controls growth, health, and reproduction. Your best backyard calcium source is eggshell. Rinse it, dry it, crush it into powder, and sprinkle it into the feeding zone. Snails will regulate their own intake when calcium is available. The loop is zero waste. Scraps go in. Snail biomass comes out. What snails leave behind is not waste, it is fertilizer. Mix the droppings and leftover plant matter into compost or use small amounts to enrich soil. The system feeds you and upgrades your garden productivity. More greens become more feed, and the loop tightens over time. Aromatic plants also help with pest pressure. Rosemary, fennel, thyme, and similar herbs create a scent boundary that can discourage some pests and reduce the chance you need to introduce chemicals into the system. High-density management and rapid growth. Snails live on a schedule written by humidity. In Mediterranean climates, the magic moment is dew. That is when they move, feed, mate, and grow. Your job is to mimic dew in a controlled way. The routine is simple. In the evening, lightly mist the stone, add fresh feed, and do a quick check. In the morning, remove leftovers before they rot, check the ant moat, and let the tower breathe. Once a week, do a deeper clean of the feeding area and inspect for pests. High density is the point, but overcrowding is the trap. Snails need space to feed without constantly climbing over each other. If it becomes a pile, growth slows and stress rises. The advantage of vertical habitat is that you can expand surface area without expanding footprint. Add extra stone shelves, a nearby mini stack, or a shaded board they can cling to. Snails show their timeline. Juveniles are delicate. Subadults grow quickly when calcium is constant. Adults develop a thicker shell edge, a lip, when they are maturing. When you see many snails reaching that stage, your system is approaching harvest capacity. Breeding happens in damp-protected zones. Eggs are vulnerable to ants, mites, and mold. This is why the moat and cleanliness are not optional. Some keep a small tray of moist soil near the tower as a designated laying area to make reproduction more predictable. Here is the finishing trick. Calcium loading. In the final stretch before harvest, increase calcium availability and shift feed toward clean greens and aromatics. Shells strengthen, handling gets easier, and a healthy colony delivers a better harvest. Humidity is essential, but rot thrives in humidity too. Do not let the feeding area become a compost pile on the surface. Remove leftovers before they liquefy. Keep airflow. 5 minutes of maintenance prevents weeks of problems. Harvesting efficiency and gourmet preparation. Harvest is where people get uncomfortable, so we keep it responsible. Do not harvest wild snails from unknown environments because they may carry parasites or accumulate contaminants. Start with clean stock, keep the system clean, and cook thoroughly. Before cooking, purge the snails so the digestive tract clears. Feed clean greens for a short period, then a brief fasting window with access to moisture and airflow. This step improves culinary quality and cleanliness. The cooking approach is minimal and modern: aromatics, fat, acid, and heat. Rosemary and garlic in olive oil, finished with lemon. A fennel and tomato stew with thyme and garlic, simmered gently. Or a fast herb butter preparation, finished with bright acid. Simple methods that highlight the flavor you built through the forage ring. Reclaim the neglected corner. The lesson of the Roman cochlearium is that self-sufficiency is not always about bigger farms. Sometimes it is about smarter microclimates and using what you already have. Shade, stone, scraps, calcium, and a routine you can keep. Chickens ask you to build a lifestyle around them. Snails ask you to build a corner. Once that corner works, it keeps working. The neglected space becomes food space. And the method was never new, we just forgot it.